former President Barachakeo, they went to school together, grew up together. The moment has arrived for the man of the moment. He is revered as one of the most prolific housing ministers, not only in Guyana, but in the Caribbean as well, for revolutionizing the housing sector in Guyana. He's 38 years old, young and vibrant. He grew up in the PPP. His grandmother, I recall the grandmother when I was growing up as a kid at Lenora, Sakina, PPP stalwart, and she went through the many struggles in those days. And Irfan was very much nurtured and groomed into the party. He took up the position to fight for democracy in Guyana. So, ladies and gentlemen, he won the popular votes from the Central Committee of the PPP and catapulted to be the presidential candidate for our very soon upcoming elections. Ladies and gentlemen, from Lenora, West Coast Demerara, please help me by a standing ovation to welcome the PPPC presidential candidate and soon to be the President of Guyana. Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Mr. Mohammed Irfan Ali.
Thank you very much. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Guyanese brothers and sisters in humanity, I greet you. Assalamu alaikum, good evening. And I want to say that in this gathering tonight, I am most humbled and honored because sitting, and I will not identify the table, sitting on a certain table on my right is someone who was a teacher when I was very young, someone who played a very integral part in my personal development. He was, he's much more approachable now, I would say that. But growing up in this strict environment, and I will tell you that he was the first person who was trusted to take me on my first camp outside of Lenora into Georgetown at CIOG. So you should know the person who will understand the I see in this room many persons who have contributed significantly to the development of Guyana, to the service of Guyana, to humanitarian services. I see our own brother Hafiz, and many of you don't know, but he does a tremendous job for Guyanese back home, in helping Guyanese in cricket, poor Guyanese, and community development. I think we owe it to him to give him a round of applause for the work he is doing. I must say, after his speech, there is little that I can add. The only thing I can say to you is vote for you, please sit. However, we are faced with many challenges. Challenges that we can overcome. We do not look at challenges as an opportunity to fail, or a challenge as something that would test you into failure. Challenge for us is the creation of opportunities, it's the creation of an environment in which we can find innovative ways to succeed. And the challenge before us, and the challenge for democracy today in Guyana, require from us innovative, new solutions to the problems we are facing in Guyana. We don't settle political issues in the PPP by burning buildings on the street. We try to reason solutions. We try to negotiate solutions. But when it comes to the constitution of your country, it becomes a fundamental right and duty of every single citizen of that country to defend the constitution of that country. And that is what all of us here and back home need to do. We need to add our voices in the defense of the Constitution of Guyana, the Constitution that the government of Guyana is refusing to adhere to. That Constitution provides that once a no confidence motion is passed, elections must be held within 90 days of the passage. Only today, I was reading an article from the Mara Waves where the president said that he don't know about what we're talking. What he knows is that he is staying here as president until another president is sworn in. So it is clear that the Constitution may not be respected by this government. So it takes our country into a new environment after March the 19th. An environment that none of us would have contemplated. That environment is one in which we'll have an unconstitutional government, an illegitimate government, a government that will not be recognized by the international community, a government that will not be recognized by the opposition. Then where does that put us as a country and as a people? This would erode the democratic gains that we have made as a people. This would create an unstable political and economic environment. And an unstable political and economic environment does not do well for investment. It does not do well for businesses. It does not do well for job creation. It does not do well for the country. So, we have to ensure that our consciousness as a people, our consciousness as Guyanese, is awakened to the challenge that is before us, and to add our voice so that good sense will prevail, and the Constitution will be honored, and we can move towards the election. And why is it that we arrived at this position we're in today? We did not just woke up one morning in the PPP Civic and say, okay, we're going to try this no confidence motion. No. I want to assure you that the PPP Civic leadership thought long and hard about this no confidence motion. And after the local government elections, the populists gave us a mandate. The populists sent a message. And that message was that, listen, 65% of those who voted for local government election voted for the PPP Civic. And the message was clear. The message was, we are suffering, we are tired, our lives are being dismantled, you have to do something now. And that is why we move aggressively towards the no confidence motion. Let's think about some scenarios. Think about some facts that drove us to this position. One may say, 4.5 years, 3.5 years, now approaching 2 months away from 4 years. How much damage can a government do in this 4 years? To understand this, we have to understand how much damage was repaired in the 23 years of the PPP Civic government. We have to understand where the country was and where the country where we brought the country up to 2015. And I know you've heard the story many times. So I'll tell you the story of the last 4 years very briefly. Sugar, rice, forestry, and bauxite. You know, Guyana is a primary, we are a country that produces, we have great natural resources, so the productive sector generates great amount of wealth for us. The economy is driven by the productive sector. We had 10 years of consecutive growth. Our country grew even when we had the worst global financial crisis. When we left government in 2015, Guyana was singled out as the fastest growing economy in the region with the greatest prospect for 2025. Up to last year, in just 3.5 years, we have now been rebranded the most sluggish economy in the region. So what has taken place? What has caused this major shift in outlook from the international community as it relates to Guyana? To begin with, when a government is elected on its manifesto, that manifesto is a social contract between the people and the government. Because the people elected you based on the promises, based on the vision you created in that manifesto. However, we have a government in office now that was so misguided, that is misguiding the people so much in their manifestos that they themselves are distancing themselves from the manifesto they went to the election with. So they promised the sugar workers that we're going to expand sugar and give you 20% increase. Today, the very people who promised that say we can't recall. It's in the manifesto. Instead, they closed the sugar estates, sending home 7,500 persons directly. But I'll come back to this to let you understand indirectly what the impact is. So in sugar, rice, forestry, and bauxite alone, we have lost $57 billion. $57 billion in revenue in the last 3.5 years. So community forestry, small loggers, small miners, medium-sized miners are wiped out from the equation. And why is it we lost so much revenue? Because the government, without analyzing the sector, introduced many new taxes and license fees that drove investment out of the sector and that killed the replacement of capital for the sector. These are sectors that need continuous capital replacement. An excavator working on the coast and an excavator working in the hinterland is two different scenarios. So that is the first thing. So we have lost $57 billion from those sectors. By the end of 2018, we have lost $463 million in foreign currency earnings. $463 million in foreign currency earnings. Our net foreign reserve has declined by 40%, or $260 million. Can you imagine this? When we came to government, we built our foreign reserves. Your foreign reserves is what you keep for hard time, natural disaster, and what you have is money there for a 3-month spread that keep the country going for 3.5 months. That is the international benchmark. So when we left, we had enough money to keep us going for 5 months in case of a crisis. Our international reserve has declined by 40% in 3.5 years. We built it from nothing when we came to government. But guess what? You will ask, okay, if the reserves is declining, then the government must be spending this money on something that is creating wealth. right? It's a logical answer to that question. But guess what? When you look at the budget, the recurrent budget has increased by 80%, and the capital budget has increased by less than 10%. So, for example, what the Ministry of the Presidency spent on telephone bill alone, what they spent on telephone bill alone is more than what Region 3, what was budgeted in Region 3 for agricultural development, infrastructure development, health and education. Can you imagine that on telephone charges? Dietary grew by $15 billion. Maybe if Hafiz was living in Guyana, the restaurant would do well with the government. Dietary grew by $15 billion. Security services grew by billions of dollars. Expenditure that does not create wealth. The priority of the government was totally mixed up. You know, one guy put it this way on the platform that made everybody laugh. He said the government was spending the money on Dr. Dali. I don't know if you left Guyana long enough to remember what that is. But that is merely merriment. In Guyana, when the boys are having merriment in the rum shop, they say the Dr. Dali. So the government was having Dr. Dali moment with the resources of the country, whilst the people were suffering. So our fiscal deficit has increased by 277%, from $9.3 billion to $34 billion. From $9.3 billion when we left government to $34 billion in 3.5 years. So what is happening then in public enterprises? Public enterprises move from a surplus of $8 billion in 2015 to a deficit of $12.8 billion at the end of 2018. From a surplus of $8 billion in 2015 to a deficit of $12.8 billion in 2018. So to finance the deficit, the government is now borrowing. We've gone back to the old style, borrowing. You know, you borrow to enjoy life. You don't care about tomorrow. So they're borrowing. But that's what is the worst part of the borrowing. They're not only borrowing from international partners, they're now outstripping the private sector in borrowing from local commercial banks. 74% of the total loans from local commercial banks went to central government. Can you imagine this? What is this going to do to the private sector? It's going to carry up the cost of capital, increase interest rate, and make less money available for the private sector. The government went to the extent that they borrowed $30 billion for Gaisuku at 4.6% interest. When they borrowed the money, then they realized they don't have use to the money, they don't have any plan what we can do with this money now. So they're paying 4.6% interest on $30 billion for over a year and a half now, and they don't know what to do with the money. This is the type of governance that led us to that low confidence motion. So borrowing from the commercial bank, central government borrowing from local commercial bank has increased by 260%. And what is happening with prices? According to the latest consumer price index, food prices has increased by 13.5%, clothing 11.3%, medical and personal care 11.3%. So cost of living is going up. The economy, the macro indicators are all going in the wrong direction. So what is happening with other reserves? The gold reserves has reduced by $22 billion in the last 3.5 years. So in actual fact, when we left government, we left $25 billion in gold reserve. It has now been reduced to $3 billion. From 25 to 3. Non-performing loans. Non-performing loans are basically bad loans. Non-performing loans has increased by 58% to $11 billion in 3.5 years. Guyana Forestry Commission deficit has increased by 1,818%. Lands and Survey Commission deficit has increased by 282%. GGMC, that's the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, declined by 46%, or $2.6 billion. And the Gold Board declined by 40.2%, or $24.3 billion. And what is happening to our other indicators? Death due to malaria has increased by 234%. Death due to tuberculosis has increased by 520%. 37,100 persons have lost their jobs in the last 3.5 years. We have slipped 2 places in the Global Competitive Report in terms of wastefulness of resources. Return on equity from the local commercial bank has declined from 22.3% to 3.5%. Return on equity in the banks has declined from 22.3% to 3.2%. So these are the challenges that the economy is facing that led us into this direction. But there are other fundamental issues that affects the ordinary people. Take, for example, the rice farmer, who 3.5 years was paid $25,000 in land rental at MMA per acre, $25,000 per acre. Guess how much he's paying now, 3.5 years after? $225,000. A 1,200% increase in land rental in MMA. And guess what? I don't know how to come up with a calculation, because that farmer will not make $225,000 per acre in the rice industry. And you will say that, okay, you're collecting more rent, they will give more input subsidy. Nothing. Fertilizer, nothing. Fuel, nothing. For a matter of fact, they have added VAT on equipment for agricultural sector, for the agricultural sector. So this is what is taking place. We left a legacy in the housing sector. The housing sector, when we left, was a model. The IBB, everybody was using it as a model country in housing. I know in this room we have some persons who played a key role, and they can tell you, this is not Nancy's story. The reports are all there. The housing program was a model. 38,000 new house lots in 6 years. This government, in 3.5 years, would have allocated less than 200 new house lots. Less than 200 new house lots. Guess what they do? They repossess what we allocate and reallocate it. Nothing new, no new initiative, no energy, no drive, no vision. And these are the challenges that we have to confront. Oil and gas can't save you from that. Oil and gas will create a shift in your mental direction. It will create a shift in the priorities that you have. If you continue with the priorities that you have in spending, then you will spend all the oil and gas money on Dr. Dale too. We have committed. And I said this publicly. Everybody asks this question, you know, and they're spreading this propaganda. Oh, them people, I see oil and gas coming out, they're rushing for it. I'm giving you a commitment tonight. The PPP civic government will have an arm's length approach to the management of the sector. This will be managed by professionals. And guess what? We're going to pass laws that will criminalize the non-disclosure of revenue. So this government received 18 million US dollars. And the entire country didn't know a thing about this thing. 1 year after, somebody gets vexed with somebody and leak a letter. And that is how we knew about this 18 million US dollars. 5 ministers spoke on the matter, and all 5 of them has a different explanation as to where the money is. Under PPP civil government, if money is coming in is not disclosed within 2 weeks, then those ministers and technical people responsible will face jail time that will be defined in the law. So there will be no scope for non-disclosure. And these are important steps to take in safeguarding the industry. So, if I am to put everything in a nutshell, I was saying this morning there was a couple during the local government election. And they said to me, Minister, don't worry too much fancy talk, you know. Let me explain to you simply what is happening. My husband and I, 4 years ago, sat on our veranda, and you know what we were discussing? Whether we can put on a new room, build back the downstairs, or repaint the house the next year. This last Christmas, they sat on the veranda, and you know what they were discussing? When are we going to move, now or next year? And that is the sad part. When a society loses hope, when a society does not see a future, when they don't see opportunities for their family, when they don't see avenues in which they can develop and provide for their family and advance their livelihood, then it becomes dangerous. Because that is what drove a lot of people to migrate in the first wave. The sense of hopelessness, the sense of incapacity to provide for your family. It destroys your moral. It destroys you as an individual. And you know, it's sad. When you go to SQ now, Mr. Dave Narayan is here. And he can tell you, when you go to SQ now, people come to the meetings, you know what they say? You know what they say? The struggle is so intense now that we can't send our children to school. Simple things that we did as a government that they removed. The transportation grant. By now it will be $50,000 per child. It will reach that. That will help them in the transportation costs to go to school and the uniform grant. Taken away and reprioritized in dietary for government. How can this be right? In Wales, in Berbice, in the sugar industry, and they don't understand the linkages. Sugar does not only support the jobs in the industry, it provides D&I services. And the cost of D&I is taken up by Gaisuku. PAYE, NIS, community service, it supports the markets, it supports the shops in the community. Wales is a ghost town now. Wales is a ghost town. I'm appealing to persons here too that you have to help the people in Wales. It is a disaster what is going on there. Sheikh Safraz was there, he can tell you what is going on there. These are people who I grew up knowing in Wales. They will never join a line for a hamper. They will never join a line for a hamper. Today, young people, 30 years old, my brother was there. He can tell you, his brother basically is involved in this. 30-year-old people joining in a line to pick up a hamper, not because they don't want to work, because their life has been shattered with one stroke by the government. This is the reality that we are faced with as a people. So, as we confront these challenges, don't despair, because the PPP civic government would immediately reopen the sugar estates when we get back to the government.
Yeah.
We will immediately restore the incentives and remove the burdensome taxes that were inhibitive to the mining and forestry sector so that people can go back to work, people can invest, and people can get back there, and people can get their equipment back into the fields. We're going to remove the inhibitive taxes on agriculture, and we're going to restore the land rental fee back to the position of $25,000. We're going to also restore the uniform allowance and the transportation grant for people. We're going to use ICT to create 50,000 new jobs. We're going to use distance education and online education to give access to 20,000 people, 20,000 new persons having access to university education. Yep. We are now in the process of developing our manifesto, and you will see this being finalized shortly. And I encourage all of you to visit the PPP website or our Facebook page, or contact the ACG here, or even contact any one of the leaders here. At the mosque, you can contact the Imam, Sheikh Safraz, you can contact Brother Hamid, and bring your ideas. We need the ideas to come very quickly, because for the first time, the PPP will be having a national stakeholder forum. Normally manifestos are developed in a back room and very secretive. We are now going to a national stakeholder forum, where we're inviting those for us, those against us, those neutral, and all those who think they have an idea, can debate that idea, to come to a forum to participate in the discussion and drafting of ideas for the PPP Civic Manifesto. And this is important. It is important if you're to create ownership. We need to create ownership of Guyana, ownership of the vision, ownership of where our country is going. Once we have ownership, we will have buy-in. Once we have buy-in, it will lead to unity. And on this note, I want to say that we have to develop Guyana based on a better Guyana for every single Guyanese. A unified Guyana. A Guyana where every Guyanese see an equal future. A Guyana where there is social justice, political justice, and economic justice. A Guyana where Guyanese will take pride in the country, will take pride in their future. And once they take pride in the future, their discussion and discourse about Guyana will change. It's amazing when you go on social media and listen to Guyanese describe Guyana or talk about Guyana. The sense of pride, the sense of hope, the sense of belonging, the sense of ownership is missing sometimes. And that is what we have to recreate. And we have to also rid ourselves of negativity. Sometimes you talk to someone and they will tell you 25 negative and then get to 1 positive, and then the conversation ends. Negativity can suck us up. Let us focus on some positive contribution. Positive energy is always better than negative energy. So in the discourse, we have to also focus on creating a positive environment. So my brothers and sisters, my Guyanese brothers and sisters, in closing, I really appreciate you gotta really like something in the food in this place to leave the Super Bowl and come here today. So I'm gonna say that you have good food at least. That's why, So let me say to you how humbled I am to have you here. How humbled I am on behalf of the leadership of the PPP to have your presence, your support, and your motivation. And I want to commit to you that I will work hard, relentlessly, day and night, to ensure a better Guyana and a better future. I commit to you that I will not be lazy. I will not be lazy and I will not be weak. Because if you're weak, then you become susceptible to threats. And that is something we can't be. And I promise you, like I have promised the leadership of the party, that I'm going to give this my all. I'm part of a team that I'm proud of, a team that is capable, a team that is competent, and a team that has a complementary diversity of skill set that is needed to take our country forward. So once again, thank you very much. I wish you well, success, and good health.